Going to formally begin the meeting. Today is October 1st, Feast of St. Teresa of the Little Flower. And it's a very special occasion when it's her feast day. And all of us are gonna right now place all of St. Teresa's life in the divine will, so that all her actions of her life will be divinized, to give God perfect glory for all that she did and for being such a wonderful saint. And it was shameful that the parish priest the priest who was saying Mass didn't even mention her feast day today. And I thought that was really rude of him. So anyway, we're going to begin. Jim is going to begin the prayers for the meeting. All right, are you ready, Jim?
All set.
Okay.
The opening prayer. By the sign of the Holy Cross, from our enemies deliver us, Lord our God. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Ever holy and indivisible Trinity, I adore you profoundly. I love you intensely. I give you perpetual thanks for everyone and in the heart. Okay, March 16, 1938. How the divine fiat reaches the point of counting the breaths and the minutes to make the creature return to live in it. She knocks on all created things. How God wants to be in continuous act of giving and receiving. The pains of Jesus kiss the pains of the creature. It seems to me that the divine volition awaits me, wants me, and yearns that I may enter it in every instant, so that it may re-enter into all my parts. And if I escape for a few instants, may this never be. May heaven never allow it. It feels isolated and inconsolably misses the company of the creature, saying in its pain, "What are you leaving me? For you I left myself in the spheres, in the sun, in the air. To make you I left myself, to give you company and receive yours. But do you know why? To love you and to be loved, and to be able to say, all that I do in the heavens, in our divine being, I do in the spheres, and I want to do in my beloved creature. But if you don't remain in my will, you separate yourself from me, and I from you, so I remain isolated. But in my pain, I never stop calling you. Divine will, how much you love me, how adorable and admirable you are. And I felt the suffering of its loneliness. But my sweet Jesus, repeating his little visit, told me, my good daughter of my volition, the waiting is one of our greatest pains. The creature keeps us as sentries. We even count the breaths, the heartbeats, and the minutes when we don't feel her with us, in order to place our love in her love and to love each other with one single love. We feel as if harmonized with the creature, and we bring her as our victory into our divine womb. Therefore, minutes without her seem like centuries, and we long for her return. And so, as she enters into our volition, asking us for our will to come and reign upon the earth, we make a feast because she wants what we want. The greatest and the most beautiful of all things is for the creature to want what her Creator
Let's
wants.
review this reading. This is a very, very beautiful reading because it talks about the love and tenderness of God, that He loves us so much He cannot be even an instant without being together with Him. And Louisa actually says that she never leaves God for even an instant, because she said, if I escape for a few instants, may this never be. So she's constantly in the divine will. That's what she's saying. It would feel isolated and inconsolably misses the company of the creature, saying in its pain, we cause God pain by forgetting about Him for even a few instances. That's hard to believe, but that's what he's saying. For you, I left myself in the spheres. The spheres here means all of the heavenly bodies, the sun, the moon, the planets, the stars, comets, asteroids, and all the rest. In the air even, to keep you company and receive yours. See that he left himself in everything he created. He's there through his will. And he wants us to go around all of these spheres and keep him company, and take all the love we find there that he put in these spheres and return it to him, and with our love, with his love actually. John, you want to take over?
Okay. After this, he added, my daughter, would you like to know why we want the creature to live in our divine volition? Because we want to give her always new gifts, new love, and new charisms. We want to give her always new things from our divine being. But having to receive and to listen, the creature will not have the space in which to place our gifts if she does not live in our will. We do not deliver our gifts if we don't have a place in which to deposit them, remaining with the pain of wanting to give, but being unable to. We are as though suffocated by love, and we cannot find relief since there is no one to take it. So we are forced to watch the creature being poor, weak, ignorant. What pain! In our will instead, we placed our goods in common and go on telling her, take whatever you want, and in recognition, give us the little tribute of your love and your will. Therefore, my daughter, let's make a pact. Let's agree on this. I must love you always, and you must always give me your little love. We will always be in communication, and will always have things to do together. We will love with one single love, and be happy with the same happiness.
Keep going.
Then I was feeling suffering with such restlessness that I couldn't find a position. My sweet Jesus came back and continued, my daughter, my pains kiss your pains. Hug them and blow over them with their love. They identify your sufferings with mine, giving them life in my own pains. So your pains receive the same infinite value and the good that mine produce. In my will, things and the pains too remain changed, and from human things they become divine. I feel that it is not the creature who suffers them, but I myself form and create those pains in order to suffer them within my beloved creature and repeat my life within her along with the cord of my sufferings. This is why I called them my pains. If you only knew what I do with these pains, I place them between heaven and earth as perennial glory and love to my celestial Father, as defense and refuge of the creatures, as regret for those who offend me, as a cry of love to those who do not love me, as life for those who do not know me. In sum, I make them do all the offices of good needed for the creatures. Therefore, let me operate. These are works which your Jesus wants to do, and I can do them in the one who lives in my will.
Okay, excellent, John. All right, let's, the reason we want the creature to live in our will is to give her always new gifts, new love, and new charisms. But he says if you're not living in his will, he can't give you these because he doesn't find the space in your soul. You only have the space if you're living in God's will. So that I get from these readings that everything about the divine will is a prodigy, just everything. And that even the angels and saints are shocked by the lowliness that God will go to reach out to us. That he admits that he can't stand 1 second or a fraction of a second without our company. Because he says he feels our being within him, and he loves this company. He created us to be loved and to love. And if he's not feeling us, because we're not in his will, he said they don't love me.
He said that we were created to live in his will. Love is the effect. The firstborn daughter living in the divine love.
Right, right. Yeah, and notice he says at the end there that his love can create such wonders and prodigies, but love is the firstborn daughter of his will. They go hand in hand. They can never. The firstborn daughter of his will. So the will comes first because he said the will is like light, and the first thing the sun emits is light. But what comes from the light is heat. The heat is the love of God.
And then comes the energy.
The energy.
Service.
Yes.
And that gets right back to the Baltimore Catechism.
Yeah.
To know, love, and serve.
Yes.
God in this world. It all comes back to the things we learned when we were kids.
Right, right.
But we never understood them.
Yes, yes. But love comes from his will. That's what he's saying. It's the firstborn daughter. But they can never be separated. They go hand in hand in everything. Okay, and I like
this last line. Does he say he remains surprised? This is why living in our will leaves everyone surprised, and we ourselves remain surprised, having to enclose infinity what is limited. So the surprise of putting infinity in asking what is limited, that surprises everybody, even him.
Yeah, he is so immense. Could you imagine? He's in every inch, in every molecule of the whole universe. His will is present. And he says, he makes it that way so that we and him can continue to communicate. He places his love in there and wants you to go and get it every day. It's like going to get your daily food. Mm-hmm. And he actually says also that his the love that he puts there is something you gather and bring to him. And the fact that he wants to be, he uses extraordinary means to be with us every second of the day. He never stops creating new wonders and new prodigies so that we want to be in his will. I like this. We feel her like circulating within our divine being, like the blood that circulates in the veins of the creatures, always repeating, I love you, I love you. So let's see. Yes. The very first line says that God holds us tightly in his arms at all times. He's so anxious for our company. He hangs on to us with the love and affection that is divine. And it places us inside his divine and incessant motion. We live in his motion. See, in the tiniest distances or the gaps of an instant, he's not saying an instant, the gaps of an instant. It means a partial instant, in which it doesn't feel her within itself the most painful martyrdom of love he feels. Holy crow, right?
Yeah.
We can't imagine how much he loves us. It's just beyond us. It boggles the mind. Anyone else want to add something? John? No?
Oh,
Okay, but I'll go on there because it says that those who live in God's will can actually give what previous people who lived in the divine will and give it back to God as a gift. Like it says, it gives an example that Louisa took all of the Blessed Mother's divine act and gave them back to God as a gift. And it's like, it's redoubling the love of the Virgin Mary to God. And you
All
can
of
do
that it comes under the title of magnify.
Yeah.
Everything we do, we end up magnifying.
Yeah.
Divine will is just a huge plan of God to magnify everything. We go into creation, we put our I love you, and then we magnify that and include everybody that's not saying it, and we say it for them, and so we magnify the love that God put into creation.
Right, we
made it,
multiply it.
multiplied it in huge
Right. That's where you've got the multiplication of the fish, the true meaning of the multiplication of the fish and loaves. When you feed the multitudes, that really, the true deepest meaning of it is in the divine will. And our acts of the divine will that generate food for others multiply themselves, and Jesus, God, can feed multitudes and multitudes of people with our acts of the divine will.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
deep meaning,
that's the
spiritual
deepest
meaning.
meaning. Yeah, if you go on my site at divinewilltrinity.org, there's somewhere on my site, there's a poster of Jesus, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and baby Jesus handing down food to the saints and to those below. And I've got a caption below. This is the true meaning of living in the divine will, that God can feed others through our acts by living in the divine will. This is the true meaning of the multiplication of the fish. And that's the deepest meaning.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
I wanted to add something else.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading in a newsletter here recently, within the last couple of weeks, that St. Maximilian Kolbe said that in the latter times, I think he was talking about our times, he said that the people of the church will approach Our Lady's Holiness more closely, and I think we're the fulfillment of that prophecy, because we're living in the divine will like she does of the divine will.
Right. We're the true children of the Virgin Mary, because we resemble her, because we're living in God's divine will. And I notice a line it says here, Jesus says, "My daughter, born and reborn in our will." And I think what he means by that is that each additional act you do in the divine will, it's a rebirth into the divine will. You're re-entering into it each time, and you're producing a new divine life, and you become reborn by that new divine life.
Every act is in the divine will, is a rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what do you think about these two examples? Isn't that wonderful that the teacher that can't find a pupil who's interested in the science he has to offer? And he's very sad because nobody will accept his teaching.
Right.
And that's the way God feels, that nobody wants to learn about his divine will. He calls it in one place the science of sciences.
Yeah. But it's even beyond the divine will, because I know, Frank, you've talked many times where you were somewhere and God revealed some information to you.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Was something about the gospel, something about the Mass, that it's, And of course, it's his divine will that we know all this, but at the same time, underneath, he's also spending this time teaching us all kinds of things. And he uses the natural world. You look at a puppy and you understand some spiritual concepts. I could be doing laundry and I can find some, he'll reveal some spiritual concept to me about cleaning souls or whatever,
But those are all effects and fruits of living in the divine will. The divine will is what generates.
Oh, I know, it's above that. But all during the day, God, it is his will that we know a lot. And we understand that he has created the physical world to reveal spiritual messages.
Right.
But he has to point them out to us.
That's how he's guided us as far as obviously through the church, the magisterium, the divine truths, the dogma, and all of that, and all creation, and every way God is trying to reach man in many, many ways. But those are all effects and fruits of acts in the divine will, and what has been done in the divine will, either past, present, or future, how we wanted to arrange the actual reception of those graces.
And talking about what you were talking about, the other day I was at work and it started thundering and lightning in the sky, and really loud. It was so loud that the whole building I was in shook. So I went out and somebody came coming toward me asking for something, and I said, "You know what just happened? God spoke with his voice." And she looked at me. Oh, he did? She was stunned that I said that. I think the idea is to bring God into all our conversation, to make him the center of attention. And she was pleasantly shocked, but she was still shocked that they think so little of God that it's shocking for somebody else to hear about it. And it was like, and she said, "You must be angry."
I was going to ask you, did she ask you what he said?
He must be angry. I agree. He must be angry because we're not paying attention.
Yeah.
But I do, what you were talking about, the little puppy dog tells me about God.
Right.
It's so beautiful. And I'm trying to convert this guy who's an ex-Catholic, and now he's actually living a gay life. And I'm trying to get him back to God. And I said, "Don't you see the puppies have two little eyes, two little ears, and how they lick you and love you? Isn't that God is trying to deliver a message to you? And that's proof that God exists. Almost everything you know has two eyes, a little nose, and little ears.
Some bigger than others.
And they're full of joy and everything. The little birds chirping and what you think? Chirp, 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 chirp. Everything is about God's joy.
That's in a divine will volume where he says that's my love. That's my
express.
will. He says that's my will, calling the soul back into his will, saying, "Come, divine will, call and live in me." He says like the cooing of the turtle dove. He says that's my will, either groaning or calling my will. Because it recognizes or it realizes that God's will isn't and needs to be or something, or it's recognizing it that it is. But the idea is these are all effects of God's will, and we are to break the veil of the created things and find God and His divine will in that thing.
Yes.
And his message, obviously, in the also there's so much to learn. His divine attributes and all his divine lessons that he's placed in creation and created things. Yeah, you find God's simplicity, and his tenderness.
I wanted to comment on, it says, "We feel our life within her, we can teach her our divine sciences. Even more lives will arise within her. She will understand perfectly our celestial dialect, and we will love will love us as we want her to love us." You notice that God has a celestial dialect. That's what I'm trying to emphasize here. Yeah, that's over. Jesus says if you're not living in their will, you will not understand their language or their dialect. We're calling it a celestial dialect. So that's why you can't give, because you and to understand, you got to keep placing acts in its will. That always comes back to living in the will, the divine will. So there it is. How the change in our destiny and hers, loneliness will no longer exist. It's hard to imagine that God could be lonely, but he claims he is, because he wants to be together with us every second. We will always have something to say and someone who listens. See, he wants an audience, and we're that audience. I want to reiterate that we're placing all of the life of St. Teresa, the little flower, in the divine will today, because it's her feast day. And that's very important. We love St. Teresa. She's so wonderful, such a wonderful saint. She even, if you look at her deathbed, her body in repose after death, there's a smile on her face, a real smile, like she was in heavenly repose. She was smiling with God.
Did you ever read her autobiography?
Yes, I did. In fact, I did.
I did not.
She's the first saint that I became acquainted with. My aunt actually gave me a Christmas card, and it was all about Saint Teresa, the little flower. So she's the first one I came to know. So,
can I ask Lou, what struck you in her autobiography? The outstanding thing?
She was such a precocious girl, and she was so attached to her father, and just her liveliness. She was kind of an exciting person, someone who can energize anybody who meets her. And I'm sure the Holy Father really enjoyed meeting her too. But her little way is very attractive, and I do enjoy that.
Yes, the way of spiritual childhood, it's called. We must all become like little children again.
But I understand her way to be Jesus' will. In other words, the way Jesus wants it. In other words,
I'm sure.
I've never understood anything different.
But
she might not have understood.
She never said that.
But she never said that.
Right.
But if you say way, what's another way? It's like the Blessed Virgin Mary saying, "Do what He tells you." It's His will.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So.
Right.
But she took all the ordinary things, the washing dishes, the laundry,
and she
everything,
did it as an act of love.
She did it as she did something, applied it to a way to get closer to God, because she was sickly. She had consumption. She had tuberculosis.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And there was only so much she could do. She died in her early 20s. So I don't know a lot about her life, but I do know that. And so she had to do things for God in a little way, because she wasn't going to go marching or doing spectacular things. She had to do them in the ordinary little ways in the Carmelite convent.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And of course, all of that little ways is God's will, because she's fulfilling God's will as He wants relationship, and she was heavy duty into the relationship. I think out of all the things, she may have been the one that could possibly have been one of the top ones for personal relationships. They, minute by minute relationships.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, so I thought I'd bring in St. Teresa just to give her a happy feast day today.
Can you see me now?
Yes, we can.
I can see you now too.
Excellent. I thought it was trying to find you. You were, we were hiding from you, actually. Just kidding. We're there. You see us, right? But you can't see Carolyn is trying to hide from us right now.
Oh, okay. Who's that person in white next to you?
Sister Christine, of course.
Good to see you, sister. I'm glad they let you off to be able to have a day off today.
Thank you. Thanks to God
Right.
and the Blessed Virgin Mary and the Divine Will. That's how I prayed the Divine Will so that would happen. Thanks be to God and the Divine Will. Blessed Virgin Mary.
And I noticed John has been out of the conversation. You want something to say, John, or you want to add something here?
No, I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. Was there anything else in this reading? We won't go to the third because we have to leave that as dessert for the next meeting. It is so wonderful. It's incredible that God actually appears to people an hour before their death. I don't know if he does it for everyone. That's what we're going to do in next week's reading. And then he shows himself with his love and his beauty and his charm. He will try to charm you at the last hour of your life and, how do you say, draw from you an act of contrition if you're not in a state of grace. And make you feel sorry for all your sins.
Well, that's
yeah, but
all tied together.
it's phenomenal the way it's said. We'll just briefly touch on it. Jesus says the walls that block you from eternity suddenly collapse. Yeah, collapse right in front of you, and you're faced with only Jesus and eternity and heaven and hell. And it's the supreme moment. You've got to decide now, do you want to go to heaven with Jesus, or do you want to reject him a last time? And he said that he draws an act of contrition from, I don't know how many people, but must be several people anyway, because it's his last ditch effort to save us.
That's unfathomable mercy.
Yes, there it is. It's an act of mercy. And I find it hard to believe there are still some that reject him, because according to several mystics, most people don't make it to heaven, unfortunately. And especially in our times, we're living the period of apostasy. In fact, St. Teresa gave a poem on apostasy, something about, I forget the exact words, that she said she herself wanted to live in the final days because she said we could accumulate more merit than all previous generations. Well, little did she know the last days were coming. She never knew it would come to rain or what it meant to live in the divine will. Now, my daughter, until the guilt starts in the creature, everything is my will within her. And as the guilt begins, so the tears and pains of this celestial mother begin. Oh, how it sadly misses its child, but it doesn't leave him. Its love ties it to live, to that creature, to give her life. And although it feels its divine life as if suffocated, and maybe not even known or loved, the love of my will is so great that it follows her life, regardless of any offense, to make a surprise of love and save its child. Our goodness and our love are such that we use all the ways and all the means to pull her away from sin, to save her. And if we do not succeed during this life, we make the last surprise of love at the moment of his death. You must know that in that moment, we give the last sign of love to the creature, providing her with our graces, our love, and our goodness, and placing so much tenderness of love as to soften and win the hardest of hearts. When the creature finds herself between life and death, between the time which is about to end and eternity which is about to begin, almost in the act of leaving her body, I, your Jesus, make myself seen with an amiability that enraptures, with a sweetness that chains and sweetens the bitterness of life, especially in that extreme moment. Then my gaze, I look at her, but with so much love as to pull from her an act of contrition, one act of love, one adhesion to my will. In that moment of disillusionment, in seeing and touching with her hands how much we loved her and do love her, the creature feels so much pain that she repents for not having loved us. She recognizes our will as principle and completion of her life, and as satisfaction, she accepts her death to accomplish one act of our will. In fact, you must know that if the creature did not do even one act of the will of God, the doors of heaven would not be opened. She would not be recognized as heiress of the celestial fatherland, and the angels and saints could not admit her in their midst. Nor would she want to enter, being aware that it does not belong to her. Without our will, there is no sanctity and no salvation. How many are saved by virtue of this sign of our love, with the exception of the most perverted and obstinate. Although even following the path of purgatory would be more convenient for them. The moment of death is our daily catch, the finding of the lost man. Then he added, my daughter, the moment of death is the time of disillusionment. In that moment, all things present themselves, one after the other, to say goodbye. The earth is over for you. Now eternity begins. It happens to the creature just as when she is locked inside a room and someone says to her, behind this room, there is another room in which there is God, heaven, purgatory, and hell, in some eternity. But she cannot see anything of these things. She hears them being asserted by others, but those who say them cannot see them either. So they speak in a way which is almost not credible, not giving great importance to make all their words believed as reality and as something certain. So one day the walls fall down and she can see with her own eyes what they had told her before. She sees her God and Father, who loved her with great love. The gifts which he had given to her, one by one, and all the broken rights of love which she owed him. She sees how her life belonged to God, not to herself. Everything passes before her. Eternity, paradise, purgatory, and even hell. The earth running away. The pleasures turning their back on her. Everything disappears. The only thing which remains present to her is that room with fallen walls. Eternity. What a change for the poor creature. My goodness is such, wanting everyone saved, that I allow the falling of these walls. When the creatures find themselves between life and death, at the moment in which the body, or in which the soul exits the body to enter eternity, so that they may do at least one act of contrition and of love for me, recognizing my adorable will upon them. I can say that I give them 1 hour of truth in order to rescue them. Oh, if all knew my industries of love, which I perform in the last moment of their life, so that they may escape from my may not escape from my more than paternal hands. They would not wait for that moment, but they would love me all their life. Fiat.